It's the big day. Happy birthday, Doctor Who.
Yes.
I hope you enjoy your birthday cake. I don't know why I'm starting this, Geordie, but we're going to roll with it. It's our 60th anniversary special. No, we haven't been doing this for 60 years. We might look like we have, but we haven't. Obviously, it's Doctor Who. It's the 23rd of November today. We've recorded this a couple of days early because by now we're probably about to sit down and watch the Daleks.
Yes.
In colour. But you guys get to watch this whenever you want. Our big 10th Doctor tier list. We've been teasing this for a while, ever since summer, and we thought we'd hold off until now because it makes a lovely little anniversary special. It'll be in two parts. We have one today and one on Saturday in the morning or afternoon, just before,
in time for the new episodes.
I know, I can't believe it. We're so close now. We are 5 days away now.
Yeah, I honestly cannot wait. This has been the longest.
It's felt like a while.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's almost like the last month or so, last month and a half, have really started to slow down in terms of getting to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just me, but...
No, I'm with you on that. But then they've been releasing so much stuff up to this. I've had stuff to get on with and watch and that, which has been great, but the month has dragged. It's felt like January. It's been a hell of a thing. But before we get into the 10th Doctor's tier list, there is another David Tennant thing that has come out before ahead of the specials. Last Friday we had Destination Skaro, which I think is probably the most Who since the time was children. Yeah.
Because a lot of people got very annoyed about it. For a 5-minute skit for children in need, people were not very happy that Davros is not in his chair. Which makes perfect sense when you think about it, because it's the origins of Skaro. All right, he might have been disfigured in some way, but at this, he's not. He's just walking around. It's still Julian Bleach. It's still very much the Davros that we know, just not in the chair.
Yeah, it's almost like it's before his accident.
Yeah, it's just it's before the accident. But Russell T Davies as well in the Doctor Who Unleashed mini-sode on BBC iPlayer, which was great, by the way. I'm very much looking forward to that as well. That looks really cool. And it's presented by Stephen Powell as well, who's very Welsh. Yeah. Very Welsh. But no, Russell T Davies gave some perfectly sounded logic behind it, saying, that times have moved on. Even since they brought Davros back in 2008 and everything, times have changed, and it's not, necessarily the most, the best message to have, wheelchair users being portrayed as evil, or, disabled people in general being portrayed as evil, which has happened a lot, especially through sci-fi and stuff. Look at Darth Vader, for example, Voldemort. Because there's lots of characters that have disabilities or, disfigured, or at least appear to be disfigured when you compare them to,
it's normally the leading point for their villain arc, isn't it? Is, I've lost a hand or... whatever. It's what makes him hate the world and sends him down that path. Yeah, and I think all the people that are kicking off about it just need to look at how much it's meant to disabled fans. Because I was looking at Twitter and I've looked at both sides of the argument and things, and I'm for the change. To be fair, I don't think that it matters, because I don't think we're going to be seeing Davros that often anyway. I mean, we haven't seen him since 2015. Yeah, and there's not much more you could do with Davros anyway. In my opinion, No, bring him back for the odd bit of fan service, maybe. That's about it now. But I think that, you look at disabled fans' reactions on Twitter, the vast majority of them anyway have been really, this is great. This is exactly what should be happening, and more of it. And, Doctor Who is a very progressive show at the end of the day. All right, not as progressive as it could have perhaps been in certain areas, but compared to a lot of other shows. Yeah. And it just makes me laugh that all the whining little man babies that were like, oh, Russell T Davies is going to come back and save the show from this woke nonsense. Not even one episode has gone out yet. And people are like, he's ruined it. He's ruining the show. He needs to go. We need to bring Moffat back. And it's like, come on. Just shut up. Shut up. Let the man do what he's going to do. He knows what he's doing. He is the reason Doctor Who is as popular as it was after the revival, especially for the first 4 seasons. Yeah. He's the GOAT of Doctor Who for the modern era. let the man be.
He's not just someone that gets Doctor Who, but he gets TV in general, like his other stuff outside of Doctor Who. And I think this is just a point to prove that how like people are going to be like, oh, it's just going to be like going back in time. Well, it's not, because they've clearly shown with just a 5-minute Children in Need scene that they've looked and gone, we're in a completely different time to what we were in the mid to late noughties. This is a different era for TV and everything. And I think we're being for a treat.
Yeah, especially with the amount of budget you can clearly see has gone into just that 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that looked incredible. So that's given me a lot of hope going forward now, with how good these next specials are going to be and the season going forward.
You could tell Murray Gold's back though, can't you?
Yeah.
Because the first thing I noticed about that was, I can hear the music again. And then it's like, yeah, it's definitely a comedy scene. Thanks, Murray. We don't need the little jazzy trumpets and everything. You could tell he's back. But no, David Tennant's back very much straight away.
Hasn't missed a beat.
No, it's like he's never been away and everything. There's nods to Jodie's era and stuff there straight away. Paralleling
60 minutes ago, I was this brilliant woman.
Yeah. But no, overall, it's a nice little treat. Got me very excited. Shame we had to sit through all the other rubbish on Children in Need. Not I'm knocking Children in Need. It does, brilliant work and everything. But I thought the
other skits tend to be a bit.
It's the last couple of years it's gone downhill, because I remember it always used to be good fun, but this year it was like we're watching puppets doing MasterChef and stuff like that. Anyway, not here to review Children in Need. We're here to review every episode of David Tennant thus far, and we're gonna do our best at it. We've got on screen that you'll see somewhere in this general vicinity, somewhere in there. You can see that we've got 5 categories. I've rejigged them slightly since the last time we did one of these, which is a while ago now with Matt Smith. But the categories are now awful, oh dear, good, great, and goat. And to help us decide which goes into which, I've put like little numbers. And if we would score an episode, 5 out of 10, it would go in good. If we would score it 10, it goes in goat. We would score it 1, it goes in awful. It's very simple. And it also means that if we disagree on anything, we could come up with a quick score each, give it an average, and that way it's nice and fair.
Yeah. I agree. It should be less.
Although I don't think there's anything here that we're going to be
that
disagreeing on. Maybe, I don't know. We'll just get into it. Christmas Invasion.
Loved it.
Yeah, it's great.
Great.
It's for me. It's it's a perfect introduction. I think it gives Rose plenty to do without her before she turns into the smug, self-centered Rose that we get a bit later on. She's still very capable in this, but she's still not like all of a sudden can do everything. And you could still see that she's like way out of her depth, but does a great job with it. I think it's Jackie and Mickey are great in this as well. The hints you get of the 10th Doctor coming through until that scene where he comes out of the TARDIS and everything. Yeah, good fun.
Yeah, you got that, talking about the hints coming through, you got David Tennant waking up to deal with the pilot fish and stuff, and you get him getting involved, stops the killer Christmas tree, which was a nice touch, although overused in years to come.
Yeah, I love the whole I'm going to get killed by a Christmas tree. It's brilliant.
It is a brilliant line.
It's one I go back to pretty much every Christmas, because I think it's probably the most Christmassy of the RTD Christmas specials, apart from maybe The Next Doctor.
Yeah.
To me, it just feels more Christmassy. I think it's because Runaway Bride is so obviously filmed in like July. It doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, no, I would put this, for me, it'd been great.
Yeah, great for me as well.
I should have got the other mouse. New Earth. Not a big fan of this one.
No.
It's not the strong. It's the weakest season opener for me. Season 2, I think, is the weakest of RTD's seasons. Not that it's bad. It's just I think I much prefer the others. But this one's it's good. I just think the idea of having a body swap episode in the David Tennant's first full episode as the Doctor is just a bit of a weird decision, because we don't think we've got time enough to know him yet.
Yeah,
before we start swapping bodies. I mean, he's great. David Tennant does great when he's possessed by Cassandra and everything. But
I love it. That makes the episode for me.
Yeah,
just seeing him pretending to be a woman is brilliant.
Yeah, that's there's some very funny lines in there. When he's like the two hearts thing, I'm beating out a samba and everything. That's all good fun, and it's got a cool ending. With Cassandra in the body of Chip meeting her younger self, and it's sort of all coming full circle as he dies. But the rest of it is very much just standard plodding about. There's some great bits of humour in there, but for me it just misses something, and I can't put my finger on what it is.
No, I agree. It's definitely not the strongest. Certainly not of series 2. there are a lot better things that come in this. Literally 2 episodes in to the series, it picks up big time. But for this, I would
say good.
Yeah, it's not quite oh dear, but I'd give it a 5 if I was going to give it anything.
I would probably, I'd agree with you on that one. So let's say, if it wants to go in the box, which it doesn't.
It does. There we go. It's moved.
Technology. Tooth and Claw. I enjoyed this one more than New Earth. Whether I would put it in great, I don't know. This might be a 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it's definitely better than New Earth. The werewolf was a nice touch.
Werewolf's cool, and for considering it's entirely CGI, it could have aged a lot worse than it has.
Oh, yeah.
I think it still looks pretty good because you don't see too much of it.
Yeah.
You see just enough that you can see what it is and see what it looks like, but not enough that it would age, in the way that other CGI has aged from the early revival era.
Yeah.
But I think, there's some great bits in it. Again, I love the idea of David Tennant using a Scottish accent for a bit to blend in and everything, and whereas actually it's him dropping his real accent in there, and immediately switching back into Doctor mode when there's danger and everything. There is a little bit of it is basically just running around a house for the majority of the episode, though.
With evil monks.
Yeah. That monk scene at the start is very cool. It's very out of place. There's nothing else like it in Doctor Who, and I know that it doesn't really have its fans and people think it's a bit over the top, but I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for me, it's fine. It's just a bit too much running around. And I get that it's sort of like a base in the siege, and there are some really cool tense bits. It's just a little bit too much, and it's very Deus Ex Machina ending, which happens a lot during this era. So
yeah, it was nice to have the involvement of the Queen as well.
Yeah.
You get the inception of Torchwood at this as well, so it is a pivotal moment in Doctor Who. It is an essential episode if you're going to go into the things, because this is very much the start of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't put it in great, but it is good. It is one I go back and rewatch, and I do enjoy rewatching it.
Yeah, I'd say 6.5 for me.
Yeah.
If I was to give it anything. School Reunion, this is great.
Yeah.
This is I love this. The story itself is great. With the Krillitanes, everything. It's it's a more unique plan. With aliens, it's like we're going to use kids' imaginations to help us crack this incredible code that gives us basically the power to manipulate the entire universe. But even though you've got that going on, it's a character thing at heart. You've got the realization from Rose seeing the Doctor and Sarah that she knows that maybe this won't go on forever. Maybe the Doctor will move on without her and everything, and how she has to try and deal with that. And that initial animosity between her and Sarah, that kind of does my head in, but it's perfectly in character, so I can't really complain too much.
Yeah. I mean, how would you feel if you if you were traveling with the Doctor and you came and then you see him with someone else, you would feel replaced.
Yeah, it's like what Mickey says, isn't it? It's like the missus and the ex. It's every man's worst nightmare. And the Doctor is on fine form with this. The stuff with Sarah, it feels the way she is at first. Just completely shell shocked that he's there, and quite quickly he's like, "Well, you left me to go to Gallifrey, and you never came back for me at all. Like I never saw you again, with the exception of the 5 Doctors." And he doesn't really know what to do, because he's sort of like, sorry, I have to move on, because otherwise, this can't ever go on forever. But even with all of that, it's still a very action-packed story. it's one I go back to a lot.
Yeah, you get the reintroduction of K9 as well, which is great. Loved seeing him come back. Seeing David Tennant act with K9 was fun. You also get that heartfelt moment where Rose is just like, am I the next in a long line of stuff, going back to the Sarah Jane stuff, and it's just like you get an insight as to why he has to move on, because he doesn't want to see him die. He makes a good point. Time Lords live on, humans wither and die. It is what it is. But
yeah, it's a great, and the ending with Sarah as well, finally saying goodbye to her properly and giving her a new K9, setting up Sarah Jane Adventures and all that. That all is brilliant as well. Yeah. I love that. Girl in the Fireplace. Now, this is one that I'm probably going to get crucified for. I think it's quite overrated. I don't think it's bad. It's great. Don't get me wrong. But there's people that consider this to be, they would put this in GOAT.
I wouldn't put it in GOAT. I thought you were going to go less than great for a second.
No, I would. I think you probably would be a great, but I think it's probably the weakest of the three greats we've got in there at the minute. I just think that with this, it's good. I think a lot of it is overshadowed by the fact that Sophia Myles is just a bit bizarre. You know, but she's great in this. I don't know what it is. It's a cool story, and it's like a proper. If this wasn't a Doctor within the Doctor Who context, I think it would be really good. It's weird that almost being in that Doctor Who context brings it down, but the ideas in there, like the clockwork droids, are awesome. I love the fact that they're patching up the ship with spare parts from people and everything. There's some cracking lines in there, and the ending is devastating. But I just don't. There's something from it that's missing that stops me from putting in that top category, like so many other people would.
Yeah,
and I can't put my finger on what it is.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I really enjoy it. You see, the Doctor becoming a kid's imaginary friend, and then just turning up again when she's an adult. You got that line where he's like, "Oh, I just snogged Madame de Pompadour," which is a nice little comedy.
You know, there's some bits in comedy that work. I like the bit where sort of Mickey's like, "Oh, there's something." He says something. What's this on the spaceship? And the Doctor's like, "Mickey, what's pre-revolutionary France doing on a spaceship? Get a bit of perspective."
It's like, "Oh, you're not keeping the horse. I let you keep Mickey."
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. Rose and Mickey sort of get a bit left to the side in this, and they're the ones doing sort of the walking around the corridors and the investigating and everything. But the main chunk of it is obviously the relationship between the Doctor and Ronette. But it's fine. It's good. It's great. But I don't think it's as good as everyone else makes it out to be.
No, it's not goated. But it's not far off. But I can't put my finger on what keeps it out of there.
Yeah. Rise of the Cybermen. I
love this story. It's a very nice new genesis of the Cybermen story, effectively.
Yeah.
It works in every way. And I think it's one of those where the second part kind of drops the ball a little bit.
I think that there's a lot, because a lot of this is, you know, it's very much part one is the setup, part two is the dealing with it. And I think Rise of the Cybermen on its own is great. I really enjoy it. I think having the Cybermen come back through their, you know, a new origin story for them, rather than just having them show up and us be explained to them what they are, like kind of what happened. It would almost feel a little bit too repetitive with Dalek, because in that, you know, there's a new Dalek. The Doctor has to explain what the Daleks are and why they, you know, he hates them so much, and what they're about. And I think to do that again the following series with the Cybermen in essentially the same slot of the series as well would be a bit like, oh,
yeah,
you know.
So it's a bit repetitive.
So to give them their origin story really works. There's a lot of stuff that's lifted from Big Finish in here, but given a bit of a new spin. The parallel Earth thing works really well, because, you know, it shows that this could happen to us, but we're not quite there yet in terms of the tech and everything. But how far away are we? And it's asking that question. That's what really works for me in this. I think for me, this is by far, you know, a lot of New Who has struggled with the Cybermen. This, however, definitely doesn't. They feel like a threat. You know, they're not just stomping robots and everything. We get to know how they, you know, where they've come from, where they're going, what makes them tick and everything.
You get that awesome visual as well. So when you see the people walking in mindlessly as a drone to get upgraded, you get that awesome shot as well, especially when Jackie goes in Age of Steel with the machines cutting everything up and dealing with everything, and then you see the helmet just coming down as that last piece.
Yeah,
they got that spot on.
And I love that we don't see them close up until the cliffhanger, but it's not a case of like where in the classic series you wouldn't see them at all, and it would just be sort of hints here and there, and then you see them at the end of the episode. You see them, but they're just, Graham Harper directs it so well that they're either, you know, you see like the feet, or you see them out of focus and close-ups and things. It's not until they come into focus during that cliffhanger, like, there's the Cybermen. That's when they smash through and everything. Yeah, this is great for me. I don't if you.
Yeah, great for me as well.
It's not moving. There we go. Age of Steel. I agree with you that this does slightly drop it for me. Not much though, to be fair.
No, not a lot. I'd say Rise of Cybermen is Age of Steel's a close 7.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the problem with the 2-parters now, because the show used to be a 4-part serial where you'd have the 20 minutes and stuff, if not longer. It
wasn't me for once.
Where you'd have that like episode of like introducing everyone, the episode of filler, the villain and what they want to do, and then the conclusion. This kind of, you get the first 3 basically in the first episode, and then you got a whole episode on just work in the conclusion.
You know, it's got a very action parked.
Action park.
Action park.
Action park.
Anyway, as I was saying, action-packed opening, very explosive and action to the end. There's bits of action spliced at the middle. There's good parts of it to slow down as well, though, and that the characters sort of, you know, process what's happening. You know, we haven't even talked about the alternative Pete and Jackie in this, who I think are great. You know, they're very much... You can see where they've come from, but you can see just how different lives they've led to the Jackie that we know, to the Jackie in this, who's, you know, she's rich, you know, her husband owns all these different companies and everything. She's got loads of money, whereas the Jackie we know is very much the working class mother. She's, you know, doing everything that she can for her daughter. And this, children aren't even a thought, you know, they've already split up, but they're keeping it secret and everything because it's too bad for their image and reputation and whatnot. And it plays out really well. Yeah. I think this is probably, I don't know, great or good?
I'd say it's still great. It's just not as good as the opening episode.
Oh, Idiot's Lantern then.
Oh dear.
Yeah, this doesn't do a lot for me.
It falls victim to being in that awkward spot. They've just come off a great 2-parter where you see the episodes are slowly getting better as the season's progressing. Eventually it's got to come down. Unfortunately, this was just not a good story.
This is the definition of like filler episodes, and it's weird because Mark Gatiss did Unquiet Dead Last in the season before, which was great and I love, but for me that's really his only story that really jumps out to me, to be honest. Everything else he seems to get lumped with like the filler episodes of the seasons, which is a shame because he's a very good writer. I don't know. And his expanded media Doctor Who stuff has been great. There's something with the TV stuff where he sort of get lumped with we're doing a story about the coronation. You're right, Mark. Cool. Thank you very much. But yeah, this doesn't do a lot for me. The weird messaging's all off. You know, Rose at the end telling is it Tommy?
I don't even know.
Yeah, the lad's name to go back and make up with his dad, who's threatened to beat him. You know, almost hinted that, you know, his dad's quite homophobic and wants to beat the gay out of him and everything. It's just a bit of a weird message. I find David Tennant's a little bit over the top in this for me.
Oh, massively.
It's, you know, there's some bits where it works, but mostly it just, this doesn't do a lot for me, this one.
No.
I can't really think of anything else to say on it.
It's one of the few in Tennant's run that I purposely skip on a rewatch.
Yeah, this is a very skippable one, this.
It doesn't pay anything to the story for the duration of the series. It's just there.
I've only ever watched this one I've done like a full marathon through.
Even when I do that, I skip it because it doesn't give anything to the rest of the story that's going forward.
No.
The other episodes, they do a bit of a character work between them. This literally just does nothing. You see David Tennant having to struggle because Rose's face gets taken. But that's really it.
Yeah. No, Impossible Planet, though. Again, this is another strong 2-parter, and I think this is one of those 2-parters that keeps the consistency throughout. It does feel like it's very much a story of, you know, it's a 90-minute story with a break in the middle.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it drops anything. The action does obviously shift in Satan Pit from everyone being together, but in this, you know, we see everybody together as a unit, and I love the design of everything, of how it's all, you know, it feels very lived in, that base. It works in the idea of having this, like, you know, this black hole and the planet being perfectly fine there, and nobody knowing, well, this just shouldn't happen. It's not physically possible for it. So why is this going on? There's some great music tracks in this. The tension ramps up really well. Gabriel Wolfe as the voice of whatever this beast thing is superb. Yeah, this is a good one for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. It's the introduction. Is it we get introduced to the beast through the voice during this episode towards the end?
Yeah, when Toby's in his office and he's like, "Don't turn around, Toby," and all that.
Yeah, and it's like that possession of Toby becoming the threat. You see them all having to talk with the beast as well towards the cliffhanger of this episode, where the Doctor learns that this creature has been there before time. he was always there from the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice thing, because that even precedes the Doctor's own beliefs.
Yeah, and I love it when Doctor Who does these things of like, well, you know, people have got different, you know, interpretations of the devil. They had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
What if this is it? You know, and Doctor Who's done that a couple of times with different things. You know, it name checks things like like the daemons and everything. Yeah, Satan Pit works for me as well, just as much as I think, you know, I can't really rate them individually.
I think they are both top-notch episodes. They are brilliant. Neither one of them drops anything for me.
Yeah. Love and Monsters is a divisive one. This is, you know, one of the ones that a lot of people probably put a bit lower. And I'm happy to, you know, go with you on this, because I would put it in great. I'm not even joking. I think it's really clever in how, you know, it's a bit of a gentle piss take at Doctor Who fans, and it's the Doctor Who fans that go, well, this isn't anything like Doctor Who, watch this. But aside from that, there are things in there that are objectively, I don't think people can, like, you know, slag off, like the stuff with Jackie.
Yeah.
And how good Camille Kajuri. I think it's Jackie's best performance in this.
Yeah,
She's
Jackie
brilliant.
gets so much to do. She's not like just a side character.
Yeah, she nails the comedy, and she nails like the heartbreaking stuff. Like when the last scene she has with Elton, where she's telling him to get lost and everything. It works. The paving slab joke drags it down quite a bit.
Heavily.
You know, I wouldn't think we won't talk too much on this because we have reviewed this before on the channel, but I'm just trying to work out where we put it.
I would say good. I wouldn't say great, but that's personally just because I don't enjoy it as much as you do.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, objectively, I can see why people might. Oh no, lights going. I concede to that. It can go in good. There's not. Yeah, I get why people don't like it. It's not meant to be something that's, you know, revered and everything. And I think as an experiment, it's really interesting to me. I think it's great, and there's loads of ELO music as well, and you can't really go wrong with that.
No, you can't. Peter Kay as well is actually quite good.
You know, for what the part is, it's almost like Doctor Who's parodying itself. You know, you've got the very posh villain who comes in all of a sudden, and then he's, you know, this daft green thing that's running around Cardiff and everything.
Sounded northern for a change.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
It just, I can see why people don't like it. It's one of those things that I can be like, I get where you're coming from. However, fear here, I don't know how anyone likes this.
Yeah,
this is dreadful.
Absolutely pish.
How Matthew Graham was ever asked to do more episodes of Doctor Who after this is terrible, is bizarre. And he also wrote, like, I think we voted his other episodes as the worst of Matt Smith's era. I'm pretty sure we said The Flesh was. Yeah. Did we?
I can't. We'll have to have a look and check.
Yeah, it was definitely down there.
Yeah,
but
it was not there.
This
they were not good.
Is awful. Matthew Graham said some great stuff. You know, Life on Mars. That's awesome. This is
pish.
Yeah. It's the 10th Doctor and Rose at their most smug and unbearable. I can't bear either of them in this, even when they're separated. You know, that you've got the Doctor being really egotistical and everything. Was like, oh, thank you, I was experimenting with backcombing. And Rose, you know, it's a good indication for, like, you know, her character arc and everything and where she's gone. And I'm not saying it's out of character, but for me, it just doesn't work. The threat's a load of rubbish. The only point I would put this, if I were to give this a score, I'd probably give it 1. Just because the way Hugh Edwards makes me laugh in it, is he gives probably the best performance in the whole episode, and I'm saying that completely unironically because everyone else is tosh. When everyone in the stadium, what? But they've gone. Where have they gone? It's very funny.
It's Councilman Ken.
Yeah, and Kel, you know, has provided some memes and stuff, but I think a lot of the reason, you know, when this episode is remembered, when this episode is remembered for the jokes and stuff, and the people take the mick out,
it's not good.
That sort of is an indication of how terrible this is for me. But yeah, thank God we're over that, because Army of Ghosts is great.
Yes, Army of Ghosts is.
Army of Ghosts is a proper sort of culmination of where things have been going. I didn't even click that, did I? It's full swing. We've got I've moved Doomsday as well, haven't I? Didn't mean to do that. Army of Ghosts is great. It's got Torchwood in there, the full swing of things. You know, they feel like, even though they were only set up by Queen Victoria, obviously, you know, hundreds of years ago, but for them to come on as far as they have, you know, the ghosts thing is really cool, and it's one of those things that, you know, the Doctor would be confused and be like, well, what the hell is this about? Like, what's going on here? Overall, I think this is great. I don't know. The cliffhanger at the end of this as well was something that got spoiled for a lot of people, but wasn't for me. And I remember at the time absolutely losing my head because Daleks and Cybermen,
in one episode,
you know, my
it
head
was brilliant.
completely fell off in the best possible way.
Yeah.
But this is, even, there's tension. It doesn't, all right, there's not a lot of action in this one. It's a lot of setup, but it still bombs along and there's still enough going on. And I think, the tension of the Cybermen being there, we know that these ghosts are going to be the Cybermen, and you think, there we go, there's loads of Cybermen all across the world, but we're not quite finished yet, and the rug gets pulled from under you with the reveal that the sphere has got Daleks in it.
Like, they've done a good job with giving you a lot to focus on in this first episode of the 2-part finale, and then all of a sudden they give you just a little bit more while tying up some stuff in the first episode. The AirPods, nice callback to the origin story we got earlier this season.
Yeah.
The updated Cybermen as well, with the laser on the arm as well, so you can see that they're starting to evolve and stuff.
And you could definitely see, because that was because they were shooting at Daleks, and you can't exactly just have them like high-fiving the dome and stuff. It would look a bit daft.
But you needed something.
It still feels like an organic progression of weaponizing themselves. They're not just there now as robotically upgraded humans. They're there with a weapon. They're there because you're either going to be like us or we're going to blow your face off.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, Doomsday, however, is, I think, awful. No, I'm joking. I think it's a goat for me, personally. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
This is the first, this is a 9 out of 10 for me. It's all out action. It's, it doesn't stop from the moment it gets going. There's, even though there's some moments of great little bits of humour. We get to see Jake and Pete and all again.
Yeah.
The conclusion of it is all right, although I haven't been the biggest fan of Rose this year.
It's emotional.
It still hits you in the heart and everything.
It's brutal.
It's so well acted by the two of them. Like, I've said this multiple times, but my issue with Rose is just the character doesn't really gel with me. But I think Billie Piper is phenomenal for 2 years that she's there. I can't get enough of this finale.
No, it's one I go back to quite a lot. Mostly for the bitch fight at Canary Wharf. That for me is one of the standout scenes. But I mean, I know we joked, we spoke about the jokes being referred to all the time with Fear Her, and it's a bad episode. This is the one occasion where it doesn't take away from it.
Yeah,
it's an incredible moment. It's a rarity that we see both Daleks and Cybermen together. It was interesting to see the interaction. I loved it, and then everything else that happened, incredible.
Yeah, this is a great finale to what has been a, looking at this now, it's a decent series. It's just a few, when it doesn't land like Fear Here and stuff, it's quite noticeable.
It's noticeable.
Runaway Bride, though, this is good for me. It's fine. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, it's the introduction to Donna Noble,
who was a very different Donna in this from the one that we come to know.
It was also kind of apparent that it was going to be Donna being there as her one and only episode at the time.
But I think it works, to have, it's something that is continued quite a bit, especially through the 10th Doctor's era of having quite a big name as your Christmas special guest star. We got Kylie the year after and David Morrissey the year after that. Catherine Tate still was quite a big name at the time. She had her own show. People were sort of questioning, is she going to be able to, this is, at the end of the day, yes, you can have jokes, yes, you can, you need to have a good range, but you also need to be able to nail the serious stuff. And I think what she goes through in this, and, even within this episode alone, she's got an arc there. She starts off with this very abrasive and, shouting at everything. And by the end of it, she sort of slowly realizes that there's more to life than that. And, she's not as, a lot of her stuff is hidden. It's her insecurity hidden by, shouting and being all like, ha ha. But it's actually, she's quite deeply insecure. And, as we get to see her more in Series 4 as well, she gets over that. But this, for me, it's good. I just think that there's a lot of it, it's trying to do. Christmas Invasion captures lightning in a bottle for Doctor Who at Christmas, and you can tell that this episode is trying to do the same again, because we have the Santa robots, we have the killer Christmas trees. There's a lot of the stuff that's just straight up repeated and copied from the year before. Yeah, and it's like, you've got to have the balls to do something different if you're going to do something different, because you can't do the same thing and expect it to have the same reaction.
Yeah. You do get to see the Doctor as well, so it's a direct continuation from Doomsday. So you see the Doctor struggling with the loss of Rose, even though she's not dead. He knows he can't see her again.
Yeah. It's very much the epilogue to that series.
Yeah, and you got Donna then challenging the Doctor at every stage he can, saying, like, bringing Rose up wherever she could as well. It was like it must have been rough for the Doctor in that, obviously, having lost his best friend or someone he loved heavily.
Yeah. And it does, the whole thing gels together quite nicely, but also is entertaining enough, but just not enough as last year, and for me, probably being good.
Yeah, I'll say good.
Smith and Jones.
Great.
Series 3, Episode 1, Introduction to Martha Jones, who I adore.
Yes,
I think Martha's great.
Really screwed over.
She has quite a rough run of it, one of the more rough runs for any companion. But I think she holds her own. She's got a great introduction. I feel like we know who she is from like the first episode. You know who she is. You know what she's about, and who what her family's like and everything. And none of it feels too like dumping it on you. It's just she's busy. She's got all of these things going on, and then we got the Jadoon on the moon and everything.
Jadoon platoon on the moon.
Exactly. It's a fun little base under siege story. It's quite dark when you think about it in terms of this is a child killer on the loose that's assimilating the form of humans and everything, and by drinking their blood and all that. Yeah. It's a bit brutal when you think about it, but because there's a lot of fun, it's a proper series opener for me. I love this. I think I'll put it in great.
Yeah, I agree. It is brilliant. I love the interaction between Martha and the Doctor in this. He treats her the best.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunately saying quite a lot.
I think, there's bits and pieces and flourishes through there. I think there's a lot of stuff that is out of his control, but Martha does, have quite a key part in this series for reasons we'll get onto as we go along. Shakespeare Code, however, this has aged like milk.
Yeah.
There's bits and pieces of this that just don't work. There's some great things in there, and there's some fun little jokes about Shakespeare and everything, like the whole 57 academics just punch the air or something like that is hinted to Shakespeare's queerness. Is that a word, queerness? Queer? Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah. We'll go with it anyways.
Someone let me know if I'm right, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. And I think Dean Lennox Kelly is great as Shakespeare. The way the episode uses language a lot is a little bit. It feels like it would go over a lot of people's heads. It went over my head as a kid completely. Yeah. I was just watching the Doctor running around and defeating the witches and everything.
They were saying spooky riddles and stuff. And
but to use language and everything. But it's fine. It's all right. It's just there's a lot of it that's aged terribly. Like the way when Martha sort of confides, all right, it's not like a big emotional thing, but she sort of was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be all right. I'm not gonna get carted off as a slave." And he's like, "Well, why would they do that?" As if he's got to be conscious of the fact that that's going to be where her head's going. He's just like, "Well, I've never had any problems." Well, of course you haven't because you're not black.
Yeah.
Martha is very rightly thinking, now this wasn't a great time for black people.
Yeah. It really wasn't.
So she's sort of, I'm not sure exactly when this takes place and everything, but it's still, that thought is going to be in her head, and for the Doctor to turn around and be like, well, I just pretend like I own the place, it works for me. And it's like, yeah, because you as a white bloke, not to be all this preachy and everything, but as a white man, you're not going to have that many troubles compared to Martha, who is a young black woman. She's going to be thinking that in the way that he's so flippant about it. And there's a couple of lines from Shakespeare as well that just feel a bit like, I know it's sort of played, and I think it's the fact that it's played for laughs more than anything is a bit like, no, that doesn't feel quite right anymore. Yeah. It is nearly 20 years old, and I get that, but yeah. This would be a good bordering on oh dear just because of the way Martha gets treated in it, and that does put me off it.
It's just like the way the Doctor we'll chuck it in good.
Okay.
Because there are the episode itself, if you take away the comments and the way Martha gets treated, like the Carrionites, great villain.
Yeah.
The use of language as a threat.
Yeah.
Really cool idea.
It's basically like how, like lots of science is to do with numbers. Well, what if words could be used in certain combinations of certain words and letters and phrases and, emphasis and all that. That really works, and I wish that had been more of the whole thing of it, to be fair.
Yeah, and you got they come across as witches at first as well. You got the voodoo dolls, you got the Doctor generally worried, trying not to tell him it's witchcraft when he knows it's witchcraft. There are really good elements to this.
Yeah.
It's just the way that Martha's dealt with and by those in the episode.
Yeah, especially from the Doctor and the stuff, when they're in the bed as well, and he's very much like, all right, yeah, he's not going to see, he won't see what he's doing as much as another human would, but he's got common sense at the end of the day, and how flippant he's being towards her and stuff, and just mentioning how, like, he used to have this friend who he travelled with all the time. She's amazing, but you're already coming with me for one trip because I just owed you a favour, and whatever.
Yeah, it's like someone's staring at me in the face. Rose would know. Yeah, and it's very much slapping her in the face, and it's just.
Gridlock, I think, is great.
Yes, Gridlock is
fantastic. It's definitely one of the cheaper episodes of the season because a lot of it is in these small cars and everything. But there's lots of big CGI shots. There's it ties up this New Earth trilogy really well. We've seen the destruction of the Earth, and we've seen the height of New Earth and everything, where it's all really cool and shiny. And now we see like this sort of the slums basically, and how far people will go to. And the twist that they've all been kept in the motorway to protect them rather than to, oppress them or whatever, trap them down there. The return of the Macra is great because that's something that, all right, it's not, it's not fundamental to know who the Macra are just big crabs that are grabbing the cars, but for the fans and everything who know the Macra Terror and know, their use of gas and fumes and stuff in the past. Of course, you put them in a motorway with loads of these cars with the exhaust. It works. Music's great. Some really nice uses of music in this as well. Supporting cast are fantastic.
Yeah, you get the feeling that the Doctor kind of wakes up to how he treats Martha here as well, because the episode is very much them two split. So the Doctor's trying to find Martha and save her. Martha's already gone down and stuff and being dealt with. But like the Doctor openly says to. What's his face? The cat in the Brannigan. Yeah, I was about to say Rattigan, but that's a completely different story.
Yeah, that's next year.
So the way he speaks with Brannigan and says, "Oh, I brought her along and I've lied to her." Like he's finally like in the knowledge that he could lose her. Genuinely, he's like, "Oh crap, I've screwed up. I've lied to her and stuff." And it's nice to see him taking that second to think for a change. And
I like the fact that she, although is clearly into him, she still isn't going to let that mean that she's not going to let that get in the way of the fact that, don't be a knob, because when at the end, and she pulls that chair out and she says, and he's like, "Oh, are you staying here then?" being all sarcastic, and she's like, "Until you start talking to me properly, yes." And he's like, that's perfect, because although she's still, you could see it in her face that she's absolutely besotted with him, but she's still,
she's annoyed.
She could stand up for herself, and it'd be quite easy for her to fall into that trope of like doughy-eyed girl companion and everything. But she's still very strong in her own right, and even without the Doctor in this, she handles herself really well when she's in the car with Milo and
I forget her name as well.
Yeah, that's gone on my head.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's still it really works. Love this a lot. Daleks in Manhattan. I think this is, for me,
I'd rather have another Gridlock.
These 4 episodes for me is tough. This two-parter is
definitely the last 2 of these 4.
The two-parter for me just doesn't work. It's I can see what they're trying to do, something bit different with the Daleks and everything. Some good little performances here and there. Andrew Garfield's great, and
he is great. It ties up the cult of Skaro.
What's his name? Hugh that plays
Solomon
from Star Wars and loads of other everything else that he's been in. He's good. The rest of them, not so good. Tallulah is mind-numbingly irritating.
Yeah.
Mr. Diagoras is so like.
He's pantomiming.
It's like a Doctor Who pantomime.
It's extremely pantomimey to the point it's annoying.
Yeah.
I don't mind a pantomime villain. I love Negan in The Walking Dead. Very pantomime villain, but it works. Here, not so much.
Yeah. This is, there's a fun little bit of them running through the tunnels and everything, but yeah, it's an oh dear for me.
Yeah.
The second part is an awful for me. I can't abide the second part. The whole plan of them doing this like human Dalek hybrid, like I can't imagine a normal Dalek, and I know the cult of Skaro are meant to be sort of outside the normal way of Dalek thinking, but they're meant to be cleverer than that. And the whole thing with the Daleks is that it's racial purity. It's no, we're not mutating, we're not mixing with other, because we're better than them, even though they're mutations themselves. But in this they go, oh yeah, we'll just slap a human and a Dalek together with bloody penis tentacles. It looks stupid. It doesn't look so bad if they were stationary, but because they're all flickering about and stuff, it's like, Why does it?
Yeah.
Why would it? No.
Yeah, maybe he's just excited.
Well, he clearly was. 6 times over. Is that 12? Now, the rest of it just doesn't make any sense either. So they've got all these other... They've cloned these humans, and they need a gamma strike from the lightning to give them all a bit of warmth. And they've got Dalekanium, which is just essentially just metal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It would make more sense if there was like, they've got up there and there's a twist of something, like there's a Dalek mutant strapped to it or something, because that's the way that the DNA would go through. But it's just metal.
Yeah.
And how does that doesn't... It's so bizarre and like just outside of the realm of logic for me. There's that really weird bit with the Doctor being really over the top in the park, which everyone goes on about. I think it's a bit naff. Because, alright, yeah, it's very sad that he's killed someone. Obviously he's going to be angry, but where he's there in the middle and he just completely gives up all of a sudden. He's like, oh, and then it's my turn, kill me! And it's like, don't overreact, Dave.
Yeah, so it's not the first time you've seen a Dalek kill someone.
And I know that it's obviously a lot of this is to do with the Daleks were involved and that he lost Rose before and all that, but, you've got all these other people that are still alive, and your job is to keep them alive as well. Not just suddenly go up and go, right, well, you kill me then.
Yeah, he's throwing his toys out the pram on this one.
Yeah, see, I love the 10th Doctor usually, but when he has those moments of completely throwing his toy out the pram when it's unjustified, not that Solomon's death isn't justified, but you know what I mean, it's not that much. So.
Yeah, it's a sad moment, but it's not worthy of that reaction.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing is just a load of naff, and it's... Yeah, I can't even remember how this is resolved, because the Daleks kill Dalek Sec, and then the humans blow up the Daleks, and what happens to the humans? They all get killed by Dalek Khan, who then zips off to...
Yeah, emergency temporal shift back into the Time War, which we get onto in Journey's End, in Stolen Earth and Journey's End, at the end of Donna's run.
But this evolution of the Daleks, for me, doesn't do... I don't know where you'd put it. I would give it a 2
Yeah,
out of 10.
I'm with you on that. It's not one I go back to. To be honest.
It's only in my mind because I watched it for the first time very recently with the boys when we were going through, and I just sat there the whole time a bit embarrassed because I was like, oh, I've asked them to watch this with me and they've been kind enough to say yes, and there's a man with 6 penises attached to his head.
Yeah. It doesn't get much better though because of the Lazarus experiment.
It's better than Evolution of the Daleks. It's nothing above a 3.
Yeah, it's an oh dear at best.
It doesn't do a lot for me. Even Mark Gatiss, who's usually great in things, just feels a bit one note in this. Yeah, CGI has aged a bit poorly. It just feels like it goes on for too long. They stop him and then they stop him at the Laz Labs and then goes off to be. There's that whole thing with the cathedral and everything, and it just is
definitely not Landef.
Yeah. It just goes on for a while for me, and it just is a lot of... It's very filler. There's some nice hints with Martha's family and that mysterious man and everything with the hints about Saxon and all that.
And this again ties into the season finale because as you get on to the Master's laser screwdriver is based off of Lazarus's technology.
Yeah, it plays into it, but you can sort of skip over this and you're like you're not missing a lot.
You could watch the experiment, I guess, and then you could kind of give it a miss if you really wanted to watch any part that was worth anything to the rest of the story. But... I
mean, the only thing that really are noteworthy of this is that this is the point now in episode... What is this? Episode 6?
Yeah,
when Martha finally becomes a fully fledged companion after 5 episodes of being like, oh, just one more time, and it's great, and they do have that good conversation and everything, and it's nice that happens here because anything later wouldn't have really felt like it was genuine.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel particularly genuine in this, but I think, alright, in terms of story-wise, the last one was a 2-parter as well, so that just does... But yeah, this for me is just... it's just a bit naff.
Yeah. I could have done without it.
42. Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who debut. It's just the fanning around for 45 minutes.
It is. You got that stupid thing with the lock mechanism being based off a pub quiz.
That was quite fun. I found that a bit different. It humanised the characters a little bit, but for them to not know the answers is a bit daft. And
I know they wrote them when they're drunk, but still.
Yeah. I love the idea of the whole reason that everything is happening is because the sun's alive. That's a cool twist.
Yeah.
And that for me drags it up a little bit from just being an awful runaround. The music in this is great. Graham Harper does a good job directing it, but you can't polish a turd.
No.
But the idea of the sun, they're scooping stuff from the sun and they're trying to get away with it on the slide, but the sun's actually alive, and they basically have mutilated this sun to fuel the ship, and all they've got to do is vent the engines and they're fine. The real time format is interesting. It's obviously 42-24, but there's not enough story to justify it for me personally. I really like the twist.
Or the Doctor or the sun.
The sun thing. And then you get more Dave overreacting. Not overreacting. Well, I don't know. I suppose it's quite justified in this, really.
He's infected in this, to be
yeah,
fair.
no, I take that back. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, he's not overreacting. If you go out into the sun, into space, you see the sun, it infects you somehow and makes you go around killing everyone, being like, "Oh, burn with me." Basically, like, see how you like being abused and stuff. It just a little bit more deadly.
Yeah, I love that twist, and I love like I said, the way it's shot and everything really, really works. But
and it's like the way the eyes and stuff are working with the monster when the people become the monster. I think that's quite cool as well.
Yeah,
but like a decent looking monster and a nice twist with the sun is not enough to get this into good.
What would you score?
I would say 3-4.
But you need to pick one number.
No, what, like 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
I would give it a 5 just for the twist. But that's what 3.5 plus 5 is 8.5. Divide that by 2 is 4.5. So yeah, it goes in an oh dear. I think that's a good place to leave it.
Yes.
We've done a series and a half now, and there's a series and a half left to do, plus a couple of specials. I would be much more positive in the next one, because for me, with Human Nature, this is one of the strongest points of Doctor Who for me. There's not an episode. There's a couple of duds, but they're nowhere near this bad of the stuff we've got in there so far.
Yeah, there's no duds left in series 3.
No,
anyways.
series 3 is
it's
it doesn't
banger
stop.
after banger after banger. It's great,
And series 4 is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, join us on Saturday. Some point in the day.
Some point in the day where we will do the second half of this tier list.
And yes, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoy the anniversary treats that are coming your way. Hope you've had a lovely anniversary evening. Hopefully the Daleks was good. But if it wasn't, that's a shame.
I've forced my lovely girlfriend to watch the Daleks with me over the weekend. Great anniversary present, eh?
Yeah, and now you get to watch it again in colour, but yes, down. So
I know. Yeah. But yeah, please, if you want to see what we're gonna do at the 60th, with our review of an actual brand new episode of Doctor Who, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you can see all that.
We're gonna have some dinner before we film the second part. So yeah, see you later.
Ta-da for now.
Bye.